Hey guys, it's Mike from Mike's Rockin' Relics, and a couple of months ago I started sharing just alphabetically some of the records in my collection, and I started with the letter A, and I did a video on that, and I did the letter B a few weeks back, and that went really well as well. So I thought today I would share with you the records that are artists that either have their last names being the letter C or a band name that starts with the letter C. So I hope you enjoy this deep dive through the letter C of my vinyl collection. So starting off from 1971, Canned Heat. These are all Canned Heat records at the beginning here. This is Canned Heat and John Lee Hooker. It's called Hooker and Heat. And this is a really good blues record that was recorded in this hotel room. So it's pretty cool. I like that one. Some other Canned Heat records here. Canned Heat, pretty cool, authentic blues band from the 60s. Going Up the Country was on this record. And Boogie with Canned Heat and the debut, which is probably the best one, I think. Next up, we have Camel, and Mood Madness is the first one, and Music Inspired by the Snow Goose is the next one. This is my favorite of the two. It's an interesting record, though. I don't think that's for everybody. It's kind of different, but the musicianship is pretty impressive on that. So that's Camel. I collect Vertigo Swirl label stuff. This is Jimmy Campbell, Half Baked, and this is the most bizarre cover. It's actually a pretty good record, and he's kind of a folk rock guy. It's interesting. This belonged to CHEX, which was a television station for some reason that had Jimmy Campbell Half Baked, which is weird. But that's a rare record. J.J. Cale, Troubadour, and Naturally, those two records. And then a great heavy rock band from the 70s. This is Cactus, and One Way or Another by Cactus. Up next, the Cars' Greatest Hits, which is probably all I really need by them, but I do have Heartbeat City and Candy-O, and their debut, which is so good, that first Cars record. Next, we get into Caravan, a prog band from the UK. Somebody has written their name over here, but otherwise, this is an original copy. 1971, which is a cool album in the land of gray and pink. Pretty cool band, Caravan. This is Captain Beyond, who were on the Capricorn label. This is the first pressing from 1972. Very cool Southern rock style band. Little different though. It's pretty interesting. And possibly the most unlistenable record in my collection is Captain Beefheart's Trout Mask Replica. This is the most bizarre record I've ever heard in my life. And no matter how many times I listen to it, I can never get through it in one sitting. It's pretty horrible, or either the greatest music ever recorded, I'm not sure. But there you go, that is Captain Beefheart, and an early Captain Beefheart record, Safe as Milk, which is a lot more listenable to me than that other one. Next, we have Caterpillar, and this is from the Vertigo Swirl series that I collect, but this is a reissue. I've never been able to find an original of this, but they're pretty interesting. Not the best band on Vertigo, that's for sure. It's kind of an acquired listen, that one. It's different. This is Cat Mother, and really the big claim to fame for Cat Mother was that this album is produced by Jimi Hendrix, so that's kind of the collectability of that record. But Cat Mother and the All Night Newsboys from the 60s. Johnny Cash, the American series that he did in his sort of later years, this is my favorite, and this is the one that features a lot of music with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers on it. And I think this was the best one of the whole run that he did, but this is my favorite. And these are all Johnny Cash records now. San Quentin and Folsom Prison. Johnny Cash, Get Rhythm. Orange Blossom Special. Songs of Our Soil. This is an overlooked gem in the Cash catalog, and there's a lot of Americana on this, and it's a pretty interesting record if you come across this. You sometimes find this in thrift stores, and it's from 1959. It's pretty interesting. Same with this one, Ride This Train. This is kind of stories being told by different passengers on the train. It's pretty interesting, and a pretty rare Johnny Cash record. And this is a British CBS Records, I Walk the Line. It has a lot of his early hits on this one. It's more like a greatest hits from the UK. And then songs that made him famous. And this is the Canadian debut from Johnny Cash. So this is, I think in the States, this was called his Hot and Blue Guitar, but in Canada, it looked like this. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you're a big fan of rock and roll and you like records, guitars, and stories about rock and roll, be sure to give us a like and subscribe and ring that bell. It helps us to grow the channel and keep more stuff coming. Thanks a lot. Moving along through the stack here, Chicago Greatest Hits and the debut from Chicago, which is such a cool record. Chubby Checker, The Twist, just more for that song. And I do feature this in my rock and roll history program that I teach at schools and things like that. So that one's in there. This is the Dream Police, but it's the inner sleeve because the outer sleeve I have autographed and on my wall. So maybe I'll show you that at the end, but that one is up hanging on the wall. This one is signed by Robin Zander. And of course, this is the great at Budokan. Cheap Trick in color. Love these early Cheap Trick records. Heaven Tonight. And their first one. There we go. We have Ray Charles, Modern Sounds in Country and Western Music. And then we have Ray Charles, What I'd Say. And the Chambers Brothers, Time Has Come Today. Great song on that one. Okay, Eric Clapton, the little run of Clapton records I have. This is the Unplugged record, Journeyman, Just One Night live record, Backless, Slow Hand, No Reason to Cry, which is with the band, and Ron Wood is on here as well. There's a stellar lineup for a very average record, to be honest, but the lineup on here is pretty incredible. It's just not that great a record. It's okay. EC was here, and 461 Ocean Boulevard. This is a bit of an obscure one and hard to find now, but this is Clapton's Rainbow Concert. As you can see there, Pete Townsend and Rick Gretchen, Jim Capaldi, Ronnie Wood. There's some good stuff on here. Steve Winwood's on there. And this Clapton debut. And this one is a bunch of singles that were released and an album that sort of compiles that stuff from that early era. Cinderella. Love some 80s hair metal. There's a couple of Cinderella bands there. I always liked Cinderella. They were a cool band. Chilliwack. That's a Canadian band. And Chicken Shack. This is a British band that are very, very cool. And I don't know if this is Imagination Lady. It's Stan Webb's band. They have another record called 40 Blue Fingers and Toes, I think it's called, that I'm looking for and never been able to find. But Chicken Shack is a cool British blues band from the 60s. And we're going to start this pile off with Tom Cochrane and Red Rider, As Far As I Am. Lunatic Fringe is on that record, if you know that tune. Eddie Cochran, great 50s guitar player. This is a double record of his best stuff. Bruce Cockburn. This is a singles collection of his 70s and 80s work. Here is Clear Light. This band was on the Elektra label and is a psychedelic rock band from the 60s, kind of obscure. Here's a little run of Clash records. The Clash, Sandinista, London Calling, Give 'Em Enough Rope, and the debut, which came with this 45. Dave Clark 5, Greatest Hits. This is kind of an obscure one. Dave Clark 5, Across Canada. These guys were a British invasion band. Glad All Over. And this is a U.S. pressing of probably their most famous record. And Wild Weekend rounds out that stack. And up next we have Sam Cooke, Twist of the Night Away. Ry Cooder. I really like Ry Cooder's interpretation of stuff. He's pretty cool musician. Boomer's Story, to me, one of his best records. Into the Purple Valley. And his debut, Ry Cooder, from 1970. Stompin' Tom Connors, Bud the Spud. Bit of a Canadian icon right there. Coney Hatch, another Canadian band, 80s band. Commander Cody and his Lost Planet Airmen. This is Ozone. Tales from the Ozone, I think, actually. Really interesting stuff. Kind of a country rocker. Pretty cool stuff. This is the Vertigo Swirl label, original Coliseum. This is the first Vertigo Swirl album ever made. And Valentine's Suite. Pretty cool progressive rock stuff there. Joe Cocker, Mad Dogs and Englishmen, a phenomenal live record. And Joe signed this for me right here on Avenue Road in Toronto. 2008, that was signed. Pretty cool. A great, phenomenal live album. Great lineup. Leon Russell's on here. Just an amazing record. The second Joe Cocker record. And with a little help from my friends. Here's a really cool record, Psychotic Reaction, The Count 5. This is actually a reissue, not the original. Cowboy Junkies, Trinity Session. Cowboy Junkies, Canadian band. This was recorded at Trinity Church in Toronto. Counting Crows. Of course, the one that has Mr. Jones on it was their big debut. Here's some Elvis Costello records, the 3 that I own anyway. These 3. And now we get to a little run of Alice Cooper records. Alice, a pretty amazing songwriter when you kind of break things down. But Welcome to My Nightmare. Here's the greatest hits. School's Out. Muscle of Love. In the box. $1 Billion Babies. Killer. Love It to Death. And Pretties for You. And Easy Action. Okay, and rounding out the letter C, we have The Cult, and this is Sonic Temple. Some records, it's funny, as I'm flipping through these, I kind of have these images come to my mind, but this record, for whatever reason, took me a very long time to find, like years and years. And then since I found it, I've seen 7 or 8 more copies of it for some reason. But that one took me an awfully long time to track down. And then we have Electric and Love. This one is actually signed in the gatefold. It was signed in the 80s at the Alma Combo in Toronto. Crowbar, Larger Than Life and Liver Than You've Ever Been. Great live album from a great live band. Canadian band, Crowbar. This is Bad Manners by Crowbar. Their big hit was Oh What a Feeling. This is Crow music. Pretty interesting cover. I always love the cover of this record. I don't know a thing about them. It's a cool record though. Don't know much about that band though. Crosby, Stills and Nash, Daylight Again, and CSN, and So Far, Four-Way Street. This is David Crosby's solo record called what is that called? Like if I could only remember my name. That's right. That's what it's called. And that's a cool solo record. Deja Vu with Neil Young on there. And this is the first Crosby, Stills, and Nash record. I got to meet them in 2010. Very briefly, Graham Nash was in a hurry. He did not sign anything. Stephen Stills did, and that's who is written on here. And David Crosby was an absolute ass. And not a very friendly guy. Did not sign, let's put it that way. Jim Croce. And then the complete run of Creedence Clearwater Revival, the studio albums anyway. And you can't go very far, even today, without hearing a Creedence Clearwater song somewhere on the radio or in the mall or somewhere. Arguably one of the biggest bands of all time for a very short period of time, but they were big. There is CCR. Okay, here we have Cream. Live Cream, both live albums from Cream. Goodbye. BBC Sessions. That one. Wheels of Fire. Disraeli Gears. And Disraeli Gears referred to a bicycle gear that they thought sounded pretty cool. So that's what a Disraeli gear was. Fresh Cream. It's a U.S. first pressing. This is Neil Young's band, Crazy Horse. This is Loose. Robert Cray, Strong Persuader, and this is autographed and a pick from a show I went to of his. This is his most well-known record. I don't know, Robert Cray, he gets a lot of attention. I'm not sure I know what all the fuss is about, but I'm just going to leave it at that. Here is Coven, or Coven, I think it's Coven. Blood on the Snow. It's a very weird record. Here is Country Joe and the Fish with I Feel Like I'm Fixing to Die, and Country Joe and the Fish, Electric Music for the Mind and Body. Well, I hope you enjoyed that really quick look at the letter C in my record collection and some of the artists that I collect that either their last name starts with the letter C or the band name starts with the letter C. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that look, and let me know in the comments any records that you connected with or have memories of, or have in your collection as well, or just bands that maybe you haven't heard of that you have interest in learning more about. And I always appreciate hearing from you guys. So thanks very much for watching. Keep on collecting, and we'll see you next time.